So, this is the planning board meeting of October 26, 2021. We don't have a flag, so we won't do that tonight. So we'll start with there's a couple of meetings that are going to be continued. We have a request for a minor modification to site plan on 96 Forest Street. And so that is going to be continued to November 9th. I don't know if we usually vote on that or not. All right, let's do it. I'll like to a motion to continue the minor modification of 96 Forest Street. Everett Pontiff will continue to November 9th at 7 o'clock.
I'll make that said motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so Kevin Robinson, for the record, made the motion. Connie Shea, second. And those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay. All right, so the next is the application of JCM Carver Acquisitions LLC, requesting a special permit for fast food drive-in restaurant. And this is on 287 Tremont Street. So this was also, there was also a request to continue this to November 9th. So I'd like to, I'll entertain a motion to
I'll
continue.
make that said motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so. Okay, those in favor? Oh, so that'll be at 7 o'clock on November 9th. Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, yes. All right, so we go on. The next is the third on the agenda is the application of Bayberry Dunes LLC requesting a special permit pursuant to sections 2330 and 5300 of the Carver zoning bylaw. This is located at 2 Lillian Way in Carver, assessors map 49, lot 62-2, to construct two commercial buildings, one 6,000 square feet and one 7,200 square feet, for a total of 13,200 square feet on one lot. The proposed building use will be a craftsman tradesman in the general business district. So let me just say that these buildings exist now, as we explained during the first meeting we had. They came under site plan review back a year or so ago, or two, when they originally came before the board. There was omitted from the application was site plan review, or special permit, I'm sorry. So our last planner, Jim Wells, said that this needed to actually come back before the board for a special permit for the two, to allow the two buildings that are already built on the lot to be there. So that's what we're hearing tonight, the special permit. Just want to say that, so we did, some of the board members were new and hadn't seen this project previously from the last planning board. So we did a site visit, and see, it was Rich Dion, Alan Cedillo, Connie Shea, myself, Bruce Mackey, We were the ones that attended that site visit. And, see, that was October 18th. And so we looked at the existing buildings. They're still under construction. The buildings are there, but the site hasn't been completed. So it still needs treatments of the plantings that are supposed to go in, and grass, and the parking hasn't been paved, and that hasn't been done yet. So we're here tonight to discuss, there was a concern about how the buildings looked. So we're here to discuss, I guess there were three things we were going to do to the buildings to make them appear a little more aesthetically pleasing to Route 58 and to Lillian Way. So I just want to say that on this project, we spent, the previous board, 2 members now, which are selectmen, we did extensive landscaping on this property. And the idea of the landscaping was so that the buildings, there was a concern of the people that lived off of Lillian Way in that subdivision, that they really didn't want to see a whole bunch of these buildings. So we extensively landscaped this with trees and bushes and everything, so that a major portion of the buildings wouldn't be seen. So that's just to address that. There was, at the last hearing, we also heard concerns about the drainage there, and that some of the drainage from the drainage swale that runs along the right side of the buildings, as you stand on Lillian Way, that it was overflowing into Lillian Way. So since then, and I hope it'll hold tonight in the deluge, but since then, some dirt has been put there to stop the river of water to drain out into Lillian Way. And I just looked at the plans before the meeting, and that had been approved, and it's a drainage swale, and it goes into a catch basin that's at the bottom of the drainage swale that's in the parking lot. And the drainage then goes into, actually goes underground into interceptor systems, and there's several on the site. So that's how that drainage works. The reason it was overflowing on the road was because it had been covered over so that those systems wouldn't get all filled with dirt and sand and silt and everything. So that's the reason. That's the reason there was an overflow. What else can I say? All right, so that's all I have to say right now. The buildings are low compared to some of the other buildings in town, and some of the buildings that we have in town are much higher, and you can see them as they just have a bigger appearance. But this building sits low with the landscaping. You're not going to see a bunch of the building, and so that's a good thing in a lot of ways. So if somebody would, if you want to introduce yourself, give us your name and then what you propose to do out there.
All right. Good evening. My name's David Iavana. Part owner with my brother Steven. We represent Bayberry Dunes. We started this project, over 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. We got approval for the board was about July 9th was our first meeting with you guys in 2019. We met 3 times after that, went over the site plan, went to peer review. Peer review had a lot of changes. Drainage was one of the main issues of the lot. We sit low. Eric Pontiff, the Agway building, sits high, so we're taking on his water. We're taking on water from the glass company behind us. We paved a swale that's going into this retention basin that Bruce mentioned, and it will go into the underground chambers, which haven't been turned on yet. We can't fill them with silt yet. We're gonna be putting a binder coat in the parking lot the next 2 weeks, so it will be paved. The first binder coat will be. It'll definitely, no water will be entering Lillian Way. If it does, we have a major problem. We over-engineered that lot for drainage. So, like Bruce said, we met out there last Monday. There was some proposals that we made to change the appearance of the building, basically. On the 58 side, we are now proposing to try to fit in the area on 58 to other steel buildings, other buildings in the area. We're proposing to put windows in next to the 5 doors on the 58 side. And we are also, on the Lillian Way side, we are looking to put in 5x8 building trellises, 6 of them total, 3 on each building, that will allow ivy or clematis to grow and cover the buildings. The trellises can be mounted on the building, so they can actually sit up higher, so it will allow for some growth of some sort of ivy or whatever we plant to break up that side of the building. I addressed with the board Monday through this rendering the amount of landscaping that Bruce had mentioned. The buildings sit low to begin with, as he said. The peak is 18 feet high, which is not a high pitch for a roof of a building, and they sit low on the lot. And along 58, the buildings they're down probably, I don't know the exact, but they're down probably 14 feet roughly from grade on 58, so they sit low to begin with. And we're gonna, part of the proposal in the original landscaping plan, we were planting 15 giant green arborvitaes along 58. We left a lot of the growth on 58 when we cleared the lot, heading towards Quickies. There's existing trees still there that we left up to buffer to block that end of the building. So this end of the lot didn't have a lot of growth, and that's why we're planting what we're doing. So we have all the arborvitaes along the corner of the building, and then we're doing 6 red maple, dogwood. There's a ton of vibrams. There's a big grass there in the front of 58 that comes around the corner to Lillian Way. As he alluded, when we originally went through, we proposed a landscaping plan, and it was addressed, and we really beefed up the landscaping plan after the first meeting. It's pretty substantial compared to anything actually on 58. So, in my opinion, and we can see the renderings of how they're going to look, it should screen these buildings really well. The end of the buildings too, along the Lillian Way side, the two sides, there's arborvitaes on each end of the building, which are giants. So it's going to break up the line of the way the building looks. So that's.
I did find this in the folder. I know I'd been requested by several people to go through the files and see if there were any renderings of the original building, and I didn't find anything. So we didn't have that, but I did, here's the landscaping plan. I don't know if you want to hold this up, but it's pretty extensive. And Kevin Robinson here, sitting to my right, was a main person in advising us on what to do here. So you can see the buildings. This is along Route 58, and you can see there's a lot of trees here.
Yeah, 58's,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. Yep, 58's
Yeah,
here.
so there's 4 red maples, and we have 2 more on the other side of the driveway on Lillian Way. And there's 15. I don't know if we're allowed to pass this around if anybody has
Yeah, sure,
concerns.
sure.
If anybody wants to take a look at it. Does anybody want to look at it, or? No? Yeah.
Can I just make a point? The red maples lose their leaves in the winter, so it's gonna cause a bareness on the corner. In my opinion, you're better off with evergreens there, that way it shields the view.
Similar to what he did next door with the pines. Eric had put pines in between our property line.
He put, with those,
I believe we
Flowers?
asked for the green emerald arborvitae's to go along 58.
Yeah, you did.
That bottom corner, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, we brought them almost all the way to the corner. There is a.
I wasn't cutting you off, I just wanted to make sure that you
There-
saw this bottom corner.
I can show this to you. This is one of those, a little bit better rendering, but I understand you
no,
saying the red maple.
I know that's like on the side, but they're just like, cars coming up this way, when those trees are bare, like this time of year, you're gonna see the whole side facade of your building. And I get what you're saying by putting the arbors up there, that you can have vines that would cover some of the big green mass that's there.
Yeah,
If you put trellises up with clematis, the leaves fall off in the fall.
okay,
Because they're not green all year round.
okay.
An ivy would probably cover and distract the person who's looking at it from the blankness of, and the dreariness of the side of the building.
All right.
The red maples are gonna look beautiful, but like I said, it's not gonna
Yeah, it's not year
cover.
round.
And if you're gonna spend hundreds of dollars on red maples,
Okay.
it's kinda like
So
not
I
proper.
want to understand this, you would oppose to putting a red maple there where they have set it up. You'd like to see another green giant emerald arborvitae.
Granted, they're only 15 feet tall and they're gonna take like,
They are, but
5
now
years.
I went out there today too. I took my grandson out there. This really meant a lot to me, to the point of where I drove to Maine to get away for a little while, and all I did was look at every single building on my way there. And I thought to myself, how can we make both parties happy? And I thought to myself, when I drove in there today, by the time these are up, they are just about gonna go up to where the roof cuts off. So where they're 18 feet, you will see 3 feet at the top of that. My biggest concern was the gable ends as well. And they are offering to put the arborvitae's there for the clematis, despite the fact that it will die back. I find that they are taking care of the side of 58. What I would like to try to find something that will work for the gable ends, but I see the 58 as being taken care of. And I actually had a suggestion when I did the driving I was doing, that on the other side where you have 6 doors, and I know that the apparatus for the fire department where they're gonna use to turn around, you couldn't have an awning over the whole entire thing, but is it possible that an awning could go over the doors short of the doors on the corners? And that would break the building up a little bit.
In place of windows?
No, well, you could do that too, if we could all come to an agreement. This side here, you have one door that you wouldn't be able to put an awning on the one door. The
Yeah,
one
so-
at the end for the fire apparatus.
Yeah, so on the 58 side,
Right.
there is a sidewalk here, but it ends
You-
before that door because of the
Right.
radius, as you
You
said.
could possibly put an awning over the doors, that would break that up. My biggest problem is, what are we gonna do about the gable ends? And one of the things I did see, and I didn't know if this is possible, it's just something I'm throwing out there, I'm not telling you what to do or asking you, what I'm doing is suggesting, is possibly a mural in signage that would have something to do with the town, cranberry farming equipment, that would maybe be on those big open spaces, and it would also be, you know, again, it would, people would have to come to an agreement that that would be all right. And the thing is we're not looking to make you spend more money on top of what you already have to. But that is one thing that I saw. The idea of the large, giant, green emerald arborvitae, that might be better suited in the center of the end of that building, and then possibly the trellises on each side of it. We could tweak a couple of those things. Like I said, I couldn't stop thinking about it on the way to Maine and thinking, how could we take care of both problems to make them happy? It is, in my opinion, that the elevation that I looked at, and I don't know how the other members feel on the board when you drove in there, that by the time the landscaping is done on Route 58, that very little of the top of that building on that left-hand side will be seen. And so basically the thing that I was concerned about, what was going to be large, open, and have no architectural significance other than a wide open space, is that possibly moving the emerald arborvitaes into the middle. I liked, when Bruce talked to me, I liked the idea of hearing about the trellises that could possibly go on each side of it, and it could be an off color of this, the color that you already have to the building. That could break it up a little bit. But I personally see that you're trying to make, you know, the best effort here without spending a significant amount of money. But I don't know, would awnings over the doors be the same cost to you as putting windows and shutters in?
Not necessarily full-sized awnings, right? You're
Right,
thinking
I'm
of
talking
just
about an awning just going over the
over the
doors.
door, right?
So
yeah.
in that case, you'd have 3 awnings. Now, if you go on the other side, you would have, I believe, 5, because you have 6 doors on the larger building.
Yeah, so the building on 58, this is a 5-bay building, so there's
Right.
5 doors. One of them definitely would have to be omitted, I know.
One has to be
Yeah.
omitted, and
So
that
we
would be
could
based on
technically-
the fire department.
Yeah, we could put small awnings in place of the windows. I know that we're getting into this costing, because we already,
Right.
I
And
already
why
made-
wouldn't you put the awnings over the doors anyways for water, for getting rained on?
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you, these doors probably, we consider this the back side of the building, even though it faces 58. Yeah, the user side's the other side where the bays are.
Yeah, well,
And I understand
where the
this, guys.
bays are, nobody sees. I did that, I did
yes.
that too, I drove down
Yeah,
through that.
yeah.
You can't see that, so in order to make everybody happy, I feel like if there was some breakup, the windows aren't there now, but I was thinking if there was a breakup, just a simple awning over the doors, which one, they're probably not gonna use them anyways, but at least it breaks up that.
Yeah.
It breaks up that long open space. And on the other side, I don't know what the cost is, obviously, between the cost of putting the windows in and possibly a shutter, or the cost of putting an awning over it. However, I think an awning would be, for everybody's sake, a little more architecturally suited to make this look more than just a large metal building.
Are you still planning on putting a pergola there?
Yeah, so that was on the end of the buildings, we had them drawn up. We were putting, they call trellises, that's what we had showed at the site visit. I had 3 trellises on each end of each building. And I was spacing them evenly, and I was gonna put the giant, the emerald arborvitaes on the end of the buildings.
Okay.
And it was gonna change the line of the building. That's what we were aiming to do. I thought that's what everybody wanted.
And they were gonna be white, right? The-
Yeah,
the
yeah. Yes,
trellises?
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what we had decided, Kevin. Well,
But
We were looking at
Which
that.
I think is fine. I
we
just
were gonna
wanted to
do
share
the
with-
windows in the back of the building that abutted 58, only because there was concerns, I think at our last meeting, that the back of the building facing Route 58 wasn't that appealing. So we figured if we did the windows in the back with the shutters, and then if we did the trellis work on the sides that face Lillian Way, plus they're gonna have 2 cupolas on the tops of each building. And so we. and
Yeah,
I
we were
thought
trying
that,
to match in with Eric next door.
So that's
That's what we're
kind
trying to
of the
do.
way we were going. But
And
I
I'm
think,
looking at this cost-wise for you as well,
Yeah.
as far as looking into whether
I
or not
honestly
the
don't-
awnings over the doors
I don't know
would
what
be
that would
less,
cost, to be honest with you.
than the windows.
We already
Um,
started pricing these out.
Maybe possibly putting one arborvitae in the middle and the trellises on the sides. So now you only have to do 4 trellises as opposed to 6. I mean, I would like for all of us to come up with an agreement to know that you are making an effort, and those that have to look at it are being understanding as well, that you are trying to make an effort to meet halfway in the middle here.
well,
Yeah.
I think when we did the site visit, we just briefly discussed that, and I thought that pretty much all the planning board members that were there, they seemed to be smiling. So I thought that they kind of agreed with that.
Yeah,
So,
I'm rendering what we talked about.
Yeah.
We're gonna work with you guys, we want to. I wanna work with the neighbors, we're not here to butt heads with anybody.
Right.
I know that people think these are eyesores, and that's fine, the color. We're trying to hide these the best we can. And I'm not disagreeing with the awnings and the windows, and I know these take a while to grow. We're willing to even add some more of these over along 58. I personally don't think you're gonna see a lot of them when these grow. You're not gonna see a lot
Like I
of
said,
them.
I
'cause
looked
sits
at it
so low.
today, you're not gonna see but maybe the top three.
Yeah, it sits low.
Now, I'm assuming those are going to be at least 10-footers.
Yeah, the
So,
giants.
the fact that you're gonna put 10-footers in there, you're gonna see very little of the front of that building on 50.
So, I don't, excuse me if I cut in, I just wanted to say we kind of drifted off on a couple of subjects here. We started with, Ms. Richardson was talking about the trees, the maples in front, and could we trade those out? It seems like there's, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 maples. Could we trade those out for evergreens?
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
it'll probably save us money. The maples are expensive.
Probably saving money, it's kind of
Would
sad
that-
because they look beautiful at this
Yeah.
time of the
Well, I
year.
get,
Yeah.
I understand that, and I was here at the meetings with the landscaping and making it look aesthetic to
Yep.
the eyes of the people traveling Route 58 or coming into Lillian Way. And I was just thinking the corner, that will keep people from their eyes being drawn over to the green mass, that you just shield the eyes.
Well, you gotta.
It's just gonna look like a hedge if they
Oh, so
continue it.
so just on the,
She's talking about continuing this
Oh,
across
oh,
here
okay.
in place of those.
okay, and then have the, so you're gonna have 2 maples, as you look at the buildings, with 2 maples on the right side of the entrance, but you'd rather have these 4 maples that are on the left side of the entrance, you'd rather have those replaced with some sort of evergreens?
Depends on if it, as long as it covers the whole corner mass.
Okay, all right.
And I know that they're probably only like 2 feet wide on the emeralds, the giant emeralds.
I don't
They're
know.
not-
Yeah.
And the maples are probably
They're more than 2
only
feet.
come in-
I personally plant them, and I can't get my arms around them, sorry. Can't get my arms around them, so the size of the trees that they're putting in, first of all, they're over $400 a piece. And they are so large that you can only get 10 of them in a dump truck. So they are massive in size. It takes 3 men to move them, to plant them, short of a bobcat. So they're not going to be little. And like I said, when I went there with my grandson today, they are going to cover the side of the building where it may not need anything. Because one thing I thought of too was I almost wonder if we would be better off being able to look at this after the landscaping was in. You know, if they're gonna be cutting into their building for the sake of putting in a window and the sake of putting on an awning, it would only be fair to them to possibly see what the landscaping is gonna cover after this is done. You know, and it is something that I thought about, because unfortunately, at the time, I felt like we went above and beyond and it asked an awful lot of them as far as the landscaping was concerned, so this wasn't going to be an eyesore to Route 58. Again, the
So
thing that
you're proposing the windows, the awnings?
not windows in, I'm
Just the windows
suggesting,
right
I
now.
suggested on my own, and I probably should have talked to Bruce about it, but I suggested on my own possibly awnings over the doors opposed to windows. And if they were to be awnings over the doors, only 3 of the doors, because one of the doors, the fire apparatus wouldn't be able to come around the building in the event of an emergency. You know, there's a man in the house who's a professional at this, and I wouldn't mind asking what he thought about awnings opposed to windows. I'm sure he would probably, well, I guess he stepped out. But,
Well,
Mr. Vildix.
I'm the general contractor on the job.
Now, what's your name again, please?
Stephen Bullock.
Stephen
The
Bullock, yeah.
windows would be cost effective to do. The awnings would have to get into a structural engineer to pull the inside of the building apart, put structural members in so that the awnings can hang on the building. The building was not designed for awnings to be, it's not like you can just take a magnet and stick them to the building.
Quite
There's a whole
understand.
bunch of structural work that has to be done inside the building. It's all insulated. It's pretty much rough wired at this point. So you're talking about pulling back wiring, Pulling back
Almost,
from
I'm not
signage.
talking about anything
No,
more
I'm just
extensive
saying, if
than a
that, I'm
foot.
just saying, so the awnings are a very expensive cost. The windows, they can be done no problem.
Okay.
And the other thing with the arborvitae's on the corner is you also have to take into effect the sign. The maples are gonna probably hide the sign a little bit better than the arborvitae's. Because now it's gonna stick in front of the arborvitae's, where you take the maples and it kind of blends in with it. Because it's on that front corner.
I see that.
All right, any other planning board members have anything to say?
Well, if it's a choice between the two, I'm leaning towards the windows, and I'd like to see the trellises up much higher. I think within a minimum of 50% of the height of the building, and that way we'll break up a much larger section of the frontage that you're dealing with there, and
That's not a problem.
yeah.
That's
'cause-
definitely not. These, they can be placed anywhere in the building, man. We're just representing them in the bed, but that's what I said at the beginning. We can
just-
put them up.
Just higher to break
Yeah.
up that.
So how high would, how high would those
The
trellises be?
trellises are 5 by 8. The end of the buildings are 12 feet.
Mhm.
Excuse me, 14 feet.
Okay.
The peak of the building's 18. So,
Right.
we can come up off the ground roughly 3 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, and that would get to the middle of the building. And I'm suggesting, I know you said put one, and they are expensive. I just personally think that it would look nice with the giants on the corners and then the
Sure.
3 of them set up.
Again,
But we can do whatever.
I'm thinking about the corner and
Yep.
the fire apparatus
Yep.
coming in, and is that gonna be a problem, for the fire department with them on the corners, that's all,
Yeah.
so.
Okay. Well, not if they're trimmed, I guess, huh? So is that, those arborvitae's at the corners, is that in addition to what's shown on the landscape plan currently?
Yeah, we rendered this to make it, I had to render this to show, to cover more of the side of that Lillian Way building. Because I know there was a concern on the end of the buildings. So we're trying to break that up. So it
you-
doesn't look like a big panel.
So you're proposing to put two
Each corner.
at each corner of the building for a total of 4?
Yes.
Okay, so,
And I understand it. I see what people say. I get it.
all right. And do you still want to change those maples out?
Well, the question is how far back off the street point are the plantings of the maples? Because he had commented that it's gonna obscure the sign. And the sign has to be so far back from
There's
the
no scale on
roadside.
this.
The problem is, this is scale, 1 inch equals 20.
feet,
Mm.
so that is about, if that's an inch to there, then it's 20 feet.
20,
20
25
to
feet.
25.
Yeah,
20 to
20,
25
Back from the
off of the
road.
Yeah.
corner.
That corner of the Lillian and Main, there is a big area of grass. There's a, I don't know if you remember when we were at the beginning of meetings, people wanted to see a lot more green. And we would have rather had the parking lot bigger there, but we're planting grass all in that corner, that left-hand corner.
There is no parking lot on the ends. And
Correct, there is none.
And building number 2,
Cor-
there's
either
no
one.
parking, right.
Either one on Lillian
It's
Way.
on
there's
the
no-
back,
it's on
closer to
Correct,
96 floors.
yes. There's no parking on the front at all. It's just an entranceway and an exitway.
And I thought the sign was meant to be a directory sign for inside the
Tenants.
facility.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
All right, so,
Where the-
so we're
where's the
still,
sign going?
so the sign is going, yeah, did you come up, see this, oh, the sign is right there, but the sign was going.
Where was the placement of the sign?
So when we went out, and we did the site visit, I showed them, we were 24 feet from the street, and we were in 12 feet from the corner of Lillian Way. We actually went to the stop line, we all looked.
So
I'm
when
gonna
you-
make sure there's a line of sight onto 58. I'm gonna make sure that these arborvitae's are tight to the wall, so there's a line on 58. We're not gonna block any view. I wouldn't do that.
So, actually, the building inspector could spot that, just check that out,
That's fine.
okay?
Yep. That sign that we had put in still on the ground there.
Right, I saw it.
I need to move it a few feet here and there. It's not the end of the world.
It would be in front of the Maples.
Yeah, it would be amongst them. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so, is everybody happy with the 5 windows with shutters in the back of the building? Is that,
I'm okay with that.
okay, all right.
That, I'm
Okay.
fine with that.
And we talked,
Asking us.
yeah, in the back of the building,
On the street.
facing Route 58, we were gonna do 5 windows with shutters there.
I have a concern.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'll get to you in a second. And then, let me just try to formulate what we got and then figure out what we got. So then you were gonna put, see, the trellises were gonna be the size of them.
At 5 by 8.
So the 5 by 8,
Well, minimum of 50% of the height of the building, roof line.
Yeah, the middle would be
Yeah.
9 feet. 9 feet's the middle of the building. I can bring them up 3 feet.
okay,
I mean, if you guys want to come out and say, hey, let's put them here, I'll do it.
No,
okay.
Yeah,
And you're gonna
I
have,
just want to, because it's a very large.
Yeah.
Yes,
and you're gonna have 3 of them.
3
3
on each building.
On each, okay.
Yes.
No, I know that there was a discussion about the attorney, what was your last name?
D'Ambrosio, yeah.
D'Ambrosio was gonna write the decision for this, and he's just, he was gonna come up with something. Jim Walsh is working for the planning board at home 20 hours a week. So if Attorney D'Ambrosio can write it up, and then he was going to send it to Jim. Jim was going to look at it, and make any corrections or additions or deletions or whatever, and speak with the attorney. So we're not having the Attorney D'Ambrosio write this decision for the planning board. It's just a guideline so that we can send it to Jim. I'll talk to Jim over the phone about this, and so that's how that's gonna go, okay?
So if something's not, is miswritten or not represented.
Well, I think,
Do we get to see it?
I think what we're gonna do is, I think probably the best way that we're gonna do this, because things are kind of changing. Jim did have a decision, and he said we could make additions and deletions to it, but maybe I'll wait for the decision for the next meeting, and then we'll just run through it, and so that all the planning board members can see that everything's on there that they wanted, and you're invited to come
Is that when you're
and
gonna
listen.
vote on it? That's when they get the proposal?
Yeah, we could do that too. We could do that too. Yeah, so this isn't a public hearing, so I don't have to close a public hearing on this, but it's just, it would be just a vote to approve the special permit. We could, well, let's see what else we got, but I could put that off until the next meeting, until we get unfortunately, because we don't have a planner here, we just have to kind of do this emails and, electronically, so. But, okay,
For what it's worth, Mr. Mackey, Jim Walsh emailed me and said he was gonna draft this one.
right,
I don't know if we're saying the
Oh,
same thing or
okay.
not. Yeah,
All right.
Initially, he had asked me to do it, and then he said he was gonna take it back and do it himself, so.
oh, all right, well, that's how much I know
Yeah.
about this. Okay, so that's why I'm writing this, taking notes myself for this. All right. Okay, so we're gonna have the windows in back of the first building off of 58th, 3 trellises on the front of the buildings facing Lillian Way. Okay, let's get to the landscaping now. I know that we spent a lot of time on this the last time around, and I don't know if you had anything, I imagine you had some input at the time too. But anyway, let me just ask this again, are we gonna go over the trees, or what? Are you gonna leave
No,
it?
I saw the landscape plan, and I
Okay.
looked up all the plantings that they were gonna do.
Yep,
They look nice. The only other thing is, again, if they're not evergreens, they will de-leaf, and you will see a lot of bare space off-season.
but,
And they're limited with the choices they have, which are all good choices.
yeah, I
They're
mean,
hardy.
yeah.
I don't know if you're gonna have a water system to irrigate them, or somebody's hand watering.
I'm gonna put in irrigation.
What are these here?
And
The amount of money we're spending on the landscaping,
Exactly.
they gotta live.
Or something that's
They gotta live.
evergreen?
Well, I know we spent a long time looking at
And I
this
guess
thing.
that's the very last thing that's done, because
Is it
you can't
winterberry? Is that
move
never?
around a
Well,
lot of
no.
Yeah.
It's this right here, rhododendron.
Yeah.
That's
To be
a
honest, we
rhododendron.
haven't started landscaping yet,
So there would be
because Eversource hasn't provided us power to the
rhododendrons
building. I have no way to run the well pump,
coverage.
because I would have already put the stuff in and had it growing by now.
And
And I'm not gonna plant it without water, so we've been
Okay.
waiting on them.
still,
So you're satisfied with what's on the plan? Okay. Because I think the thought at the time was that there are no houses directly across that opening. There's no houses directly across this entrance onto Lillian Way. So they just thought that that would look better with those trees planted there. All right, so, okay, so we got, okay.
and if you could just point out on here where the proposed location for the sign was gonna be?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, we're coming back, when we did the site visit,
Yeah.
you know, the stop sign or the marker was here. We're gonna try to put the sign, I think, in between, that's the plan, in between some of these.
Oh, so it's gonna be a road sign, it's not gonna be a directory sign for the interior here.
It's gonna be a directory sign that's gonna face what? It's gonna face Main Street, so
Yeah.
you can see it from Main Street.
Yeah, so it's gonna sit here, you know, up on the hump here.
It's gonna face Lillian Way.
It's gonna face, it's a two-sided sign, and it'll face Main Street this way, and it'll face Main Street this way. And we have it set back from the stop.
All right.
It's going in sideways, so you
But
can see it on Main Street.
It's gonna be this way
Yes.
though,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, so people going down Main Street can see it.
And where is it gonna be roughly?
It's gonna sit right in here.
But we can have the building inspector spot that.
Yeah, so
No,
he could set the
to make
sign
sure
first,
that
and I
it's
can
in.
move these, you know, whether it's a 2 feet this way, or 2 feet that way, to make it work. I mean, I will,
Because we don't want it to block traffic.
no.
Right, but it's,
So the view, oh, you were
Right,
there.
yeah.
You were there.
yeah,
So if
right,
the
'cause I
building
want- I
inspector
want
is
it-
there, he
right,
can
I want
he
it
can
set-
spot that.
Set back a minimum of 10 feet from the stop sign, because that's roughly, will give
Okay.
any vehicle the ability to see down the road.
Yeah.
Which it was, that sign that we had in the ground there?
Yep.
Set sign,
Yeah.
and we
It
had
was
set go
fine.
from this.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
gonna
we
bring it
said-
back that way.
down,
Yes.
Yeah, but if we, yeah,
But now that you're changing the trees, you know?
Yeah, I understand. I mean, we can work around moving the trees. I mean, I have to, whatever this gentleman or the building commissioner tells us to set it, I'm gonna set it. If it has to be back further, I'll set it back further.
No,
Just a point of order, you guys combining both special permits right now?
Well, that's another thing, we're kind of wandering off.
No, I'm
Well,
just-
the
I'm
sign is
curious
gonna be
because- right.
another special
because it
permit.
works in with the landscaping here.
Yeah, well, you know, sometimes, I know that the building across the street, they put in the sign, there was a complaint about it from a then planning board member, and I think that the building inspector had to spot that.
Right,
And
yeah, it
and
was
they
on
spotted
town,
it back.
it was on state
So I think
property,
that we
yeah.
could just write that in the decision, but the sign is on the next special.
Right,
permit.
but this is
Okay.
part of the landscaping, and
Yeah,
the sign
yeah.
is whether, is
And
part of the landscaping.
then they might want to view, once they put in the landscaping, where the sign's going to be in accordance with the landscaping
Right.
too, okay? And that's why I think it's important that the building inspector be there to spot it out. All right, so, Jim, So I guess we could continue this to our next meeting, so that
We have more comment,
oh, you have more comments, okay.
absolutely.
Yeah, there was the gentleman.
All right,
I
if you give us your name and address, please.
Steve Romano, 20 Leonard Street. And I am here for one reason. And that one reason is that I was on the committee and on the planning board that wrote these zoning bylaws. And my concern is section 2855 on page 27, subsection C. You want to read it? It's only 2 sentences.
Please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Fronts and sides of building facades in excess of 40 feet shall incorporate recesses or projections of a minimum of 2 feet in depth to break up the building's mass. If you satisfy that with windows and lattice and cupolas, I have no problem. But I don't think that's what they're planning on doing. And I think that the problem that I see is that we wrote that for a reason, and that we didn't want the floodgates opening up on 58 with builders and people who own land building space buildings on 58. And that's what they are, they're space buildings. It is what it is. As long as you don't throw away 2855
No.
subsection C, and that you enforce that somewhere in whatever they do, I have no problem with this project. If it's not satisfied, I will be the first one down to file a complaint under Chapter 40, Mass General Law 40A. And it only takes one citizen of the town to file a complaint, and then the lawsuits begin.
Well, we
And
have
I'm
the...
not threatening,
Yeah.
I'm not threatening. I don't want anybody to think I'm sitting here threatening. I've been dedicated to this town since December of 1988. I've been the treasurer collector, I'm a water commissioner. I was on the Industrial Development Commission, I was on the Business Development Commission, I was on the Finance Committee. I have given 30 years to this town, and that's why I'm here. I went to Jim 3 times because of my concerns. The first time I went, I didn't get to talk to him because he was on a 25-minute phone call, and I had to go to work. The second 2 times, I sat down with him. The second time, I sat down and I went through the plans, the building permits and all the plans. And I immediately asked him, what about this? This isn't being satisfied. This isn't being satisfied. I can't find an earth removal permit. I can't find 2 buildings on 1 lot special permit. And I asked, did Fuss and O'Neill review it? I mean, it seems to me there's been a lot of blunders, and they've all been against the town. That the town made them, and it's against the town.
I'd like to, I don't want to interrupt you, I'm sorry, but I'd like to react.
But that's my concern. That's my concern. I don't think we should scrap 2855 subsection C because we made a mistake.
No, I don't think we're going to. And I think we're going to look at these projects more carefully as time goes on. Unfortunately, what's happened is
I understand. We've talked about it.
We've had 3 or 4 planners here. We've had, I don't know how many building inspectors here. There's no continuity, and so things happen, and when projects kind of take a year or more to do, things get overlooked sometimes. So, I mean, that's all I'm saying. So, it was overlooked. Is it important? Yes, it's important. If it's in the regulations, it's important. But we have 2 buildings that exist now. Nobody picked that up when they were being built. Nobody picked that up when we had the design, when it was designed. So I think now I was hoping that we could just try to do the best that we could, and I think that we have. I think that since the buildings are low and since we have all that landscaping and with the changes that have been proposed, I mean, what are you gonna do? Rip the buildings down now
No,
and start
no,
from
I'm not
scratch?
suggesting that.
But we're not gonna, this is gonna be looked at, well, as long as I'm here. And these planning board members here, everybody will remember to look at this a little bit more carefully. I mean, is it earth-shaking? I mean, is it gonna degrade the town? I mean, I don't think so, but, I mean, it is an important, it's in the bylaws, and it's important that we follow the bylaws. And this was just overlooked, you know, and I'm sorry about that, but that's the truth.
And may I make a remark, Mr. Chairman?
Okay, just say your name for the
Yeah,
record,
Rob
please.
D'Ambrosio, attorney at law, I'm the petitioner's legal counsel, D'Ambrosio Law in Plymouth. I think that I understand the comment, but I think it's important to note that 2855 is a subsection of section 2800 of the bylaw, which is Planned Neighborhood Development, PND Overlay District. This is not a 60-acre planned development, so I don't think this is applicable at all. We're not part of that district, so I think it's a misguided comment.
Well, all I can say is I did talk to, I notified Miss Richardson that I did talk to Jim Walsh about this. I did talk to the building inspector about this. I talked to Andy Glines about this, and they felt that what we were doing went with the bylaws. So,
If this were a planned
Yeah.
neighborhood development, it would be a minimum of 60 acres.
uh,
I mean, it's just clearly, that's clearly not what this project is. We're not within that overlay district, so it's just not an applicable concept.
so, any other comments?
Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
Is there any reason why something that's in this much of a conflict, we haven't requested town council to look at it and tell us if you guys are right or wrong, or Jim was right or wrong? I mean, you mentioned a lot of names, but I can tell you that 2850, the intent of 2855 was to not have boxed, buildings that look like boxes. I mean, when a company like Shaw's followed the rules, CVS followed the rules, McDonald's followed the rules, Cumberland Farms followed the rules, the tractor place followed the rules, everybody follows the rules.
So did my applicant.
It's-
That's why they got their permit granted in 2019. And they went through a robust site plan review process. We're here simply requesting relief for 2 structures on 1 site, which was reflected in the planning board's decision from 2019. It was a technical oversight that they didn't call this a special permit, and they only called it site plan review. So again, everything being done here tonight and at the last hearing, in my view, is really gratuitous. We're gratuitously reopening site plan review for a project that's been permitted. And again, I think Mr. Robinson himself said, you know, he was impressed with the extent of the landscape plan. I mean, there was a lot of thought and consideration put into this project. Everyone in the public had a chance, butters, board members, citizens had a chance to comment. They did. The project's been approved. So we're here, again, simply requesting relief on a technical grounds, which is 2 structures on 1 lot, which is what was approved and which is what we have. So again, we keep losing the forest for the trees here, but I think it's important to remember, you know, we're trying to do our best to cooperate, address people's concerns. You know, Dave and Steve want to be good neighbors. They want to make something that's, you know, as attractive as feasibly possible. But again, this is not site plan review. It shouldn't be site plan review anyway.
So, no, I understand what you're saying, I understand. So, but where would that take us if we did go to town council, and town council said, well, it's just safe, that they said, well, it doesn't go by the bylaws. So what are we gonna do now?
When you make the decision to give them the special permit, in the decision, you write that they need to follow 2855.
Well, I'd love to have town
Subsection
council
C.
weigh in on that, because, you know, that's a non-starter.
I mean, we
You have
can
access to town council?
have town council look at this. and for our next meeting. If we come up, we write out the condition, but I don't know where this is gonna take us. I mean, where is it gonna take us?
Well, I think, from my experience on the planning board, that when you write the special permit, that you can write that there was something missed in the original signing by the 5 members at the time, and that you need to that the applicant needs to satisfy 2855 subsection C. And I think that gives them what they want. It gives them the 2 buildings. It doesn't circumvent the zoning so that 2 years from now, somebody else tries to do, another accident happens. You guys all leave, and there's another 5 members, and none of you, the new guys don't catch it. When we wrote this in 2002, 4 out of the 5 members understood the zoning that we wrote. And I don't know if you understand how that gets done. You go to town meeting and you completely wipe out all the zoning. So now, at this point, the town's vulnerable for everything and everyone. And then you recreate the zoning, 1 article at a time. We did it twice. We did it in 1978 and we did it in 2003. When we did it in 2078, we realized we had left some holes. We had made some mistakes. So from 1978 to 2002, we rewrote it again. And my fear is that if we don't follow the rules, and if town council says I'm wrong, I'll tuck my tail between my legs and I'll walk away.
Well, I'm just saying, where's this gonna take us? I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I mean, we have 2 buildings that exist now. We'll look at these things more carefully when other buildings are being constructed, for site plan review and special permit. And, but right now, we have what we have.
So you don't want to do the 24-inch kicker, is what I'm hearing.
The 24-inch kicker?
Kick out.
I don't know how that would be accomplished. Oh, I mean,
His suggestion is...
They just explained to us how expensive that was. I thought that it could be done, reasonably inexpensive, but I didn't know there was so much more involved. As Mr. Bullock is telling us.
So my question to you is, even if we do that, now we have setbacks that we met already with the buildings design that went through your engineering that they had sent out to. Now we're encroaching on setbacks that were allowed with the original building. So it's domino affecting.
Well, if we're
So what are we
if
gonna
we're
be
as
back
close
for,
if we're as close as putting 3 awnings over the doors opposed to the cost of windows, and everybody in this room is going to be happy, and Mr. Romano is happy with that, it seems to me that would be a win-win. I mean, I do understand. I am a builder myself.
about
I
that,
do
or
understand the cost that goes into that. However, I see cutting out 3 windows as being just as much of a hassle as I see reinforcing 3 awnings going over 3 doors. 3 doors.
well, we're just looking at,
We have 5 doors, don't we?
we have 5 doors.
There's 3 doors on that
We
side.
have-
We're not gonna do the door at the end, because the door at the end, if an awning was put on it, it would cause a problem with the trucks for the fire department coming around the building.
Trying to satisfy 40 feet.
Well,
Which is gonna be covered by
Could you
the
read this?
front,
I will
correct,
just-
we're not gonna see.
could you just
I understand where you're coming from too, and it's a lot of what the complaints that people are dealing with is very plain, and they think it's ugly, and that is a matter of opinion. But to you, Rob, sorry,
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, Rob's easier to
Um,
damn.
Section 2800, Planned Neighborhood Development Overlay District, is only applicable to, let me find it. Only apply to developments that utilize transfer of development rights. There must be a minimum of 50 transfer of development rights in the PND per planned neighborhood development for the enhanced density, dimensional and use regulations of the planned neighborhood development to take effect. Developments that do not utilize TDRs or do not meet the 50 TDR requirements are limited to the density, dimensional, and use regulation of the underlying zoning district. But to your point, I fully understand what you're saying, but also to Rob's point here, it's just not, it's not part of something that would have, that's applicable in this particular sense. But I think we're doing very well in trying to meet a kind of middle ground between both parties. Certain things were overlooked in the original design, and we're doing our best to address them. And we're just hoping to find equitable, reasonable ground, because I don't think it's within the scope, or I mean, it wouldn't be reasonable to expect that the buildings be torn down, redesigned, and start from scratch. I mean, that's but, you know, if you feel that you need to make a complaint or register a complaint, I firmly support your decision to do so.
May I just say something else? The 70 houses on map 49 were there first. So the 70 houses that are there is this 2,800. Now, when we all bought our homes, or to my knowledge, when everybody bought their homes, there were 7 house lots where 6249 now exists. Through the years, when the bottom fell out in 87, it got changed. It got changed to general business. But the neighbors that are there, we fall under 2,800, and we're a lot more than 60 acres.
Correct,
So
but
I
once
think
the zoning...
I think he's got a point, but I think the point is mute, that we were there, that the planned neighborhood was there.
Yes, sir,
And
but
it changed.
once the town...
But this building, this is not part of the planned neighborhood.
Right, the town
It
took a
was.
vote to change the zoning
It was.
in regards to
But
that,
it's
which
not
was...
now.
Yeah.
Well,
Because I
that's
can
why I
see,
think
I
we should
certainly
get it
see
done.
your point, and I'm certainly sympathetic with it. But, yeah, once the town voted to change the zoning district and it became general business, it fell outside of the purview of a planned neighborhood development.
All right. Anything else? We have to move on. Anything else anybody else has to say?
The only point that I have, Mr.
Will
Chairman,
Sinclair, yeah.
Will Sinclair, 5 Lillian Way, is that I highly suggest that when you write your decision, whoever's gonna do it, and I'm not confident in the town planner, but whoever writes the decision, that it be reviewed from not only the applicant's attorney, but also the town council. Because there's no way that sitting here today and sitting here in the past that we had the expert representation to guide the elected members of this board to making a affirmative decision. If you have what Mr. Romano is recommending, that section, and you decide that you don't want to address it.
I
Just 'cause you don't-
addressed it, but...
I understand what you're saying, but you don't want to address it, you don't want to address it in your decision, what have you, okay? If it comes back and it has to be in there, this has already gone by, these people have already invested a hell of a lot of money, they're invested in the community to be here. So, to do right by them and to do right by the community, I highly suggest that when that decision is written, that it's reviewed by K&P. As taxpayers, we deserve that.
Okay, I'll investigate that tomorrow. We'll have I'll start that process tomorrow. We'll have the decision written up. So, I think what we'll do is I'd like to hear a motion, and we'll continue the application of Bayberry Dunes LLC on 2 Lillian Way to November 9th at 7 o'clock, and we will go over the decision and then vote.
I'll make that said motion.
I'll second.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay. All right. I think we can wrap this up at our next meeting. You know, but we have to investigate this. I know. I mean, but we have to, there are concerns, so we're just,
Appreciate you guys' help. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
I'll explore the awning costs. I know what it's gonna cost to do the windows, and I just got a feeling the awning's gonna be, it's gonna be a lot of money.
well,
I'll
as
explore it.
we, as
I will.
we, the what, the awnings in the rear
Yeah, from
doors?
58.
Yeah, well.
We haven't committed either way to anything.
I don't think that that's the big problem, though. I think.
Well, that's what he had just said,
Yeah,
24
that's
inches
not
off the
the-
building, but I don't know.
No,
if
no,
he's-
that's something different. He's talking about something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but, okay, but let's check this out. I mean, so we'll discuss this at our next meeting. But, we gotta make this, we'll make this work one way or the other, yep.
What do we need for you between now and then? We'd like to know that so that we come in prepared.
Let me get in touch with Jim Walsh and about the concerns that were addressed tonight, and I'll speak with you.
I mean, I would say apart from any technical concerns and interpretation of the zoning bylaw, I think
Yeah.
in fairness to my client and everyone, I don't think we can leave this hearing tonight without it being clear what my client's obligated to do or what he's being asked to do in terms of landscaping, because
I
where do we go
think,
next here?
I
mean,
think we're good on the landscaping,
awnings,
and I think
we
that
haven't made a
we're,
decision tonight.
yeah,
We've kind of kicked the can down the road.
I think that we're good on what you've done with the building.
Okay. No
So I think it's just, for me, it's just to come up with the decision. And in the meantime, I can, ask town council what they think about this. But I think that everything should be all set. I mean, I just don't know what more we can do.
No, I totally agree. So the vote
Yeah.
next hearing, the language
Well,
that'll be voted
yeah.
on will be
And then
windows,
it'll end
landscaping
up,
as
yes,
proposed.
yes.
Trellises, but no awnings. I just
yes.
want to make sure.
Well, this is what it'll be. And,
Jim's got it
it'll be
wrapped.
4 arborvitae's, 2 at each corner of the buildings that, along Lillian Way. So, it'll be, so then we get the sign, that's not even part of this. 5 by 8 trellises, 3 on each building, and they'll be up approximately 3 feet.
Yep.
Okay.
Minimum of 9 feet.
Yeah.
Okay, so that takes care of this special permit.
All right, good.
So we'll do that. Now, the other one that we have tonight, and this hasn't been written up yet. Okay, so we've continued that to, so this is continued to November 9th.
Jim did draft something, so we could-
So the sign thing, let's go on to the application of Bayberry Dunes LLC requesting a special permit pursuant to sections 3500, 3570, 5300 of the Carver zoning bylaw located at 2 Lillian Way in Carver, Mass. Assessors map 49, lot 62-2, for a special permit to exceed the number of signs and signage dimensional requirements in the general business district. So I spoke to, I think everybody approves the sign here. And I think what I would have
The placement.
put is the sign to be set back approximately 10 feet from stop sign.
Along
but it's
Lillian
good-
Way, yeah.
Yeah,
Not on the property.
right, and signs to be spotted by building inspector.
I would also like
Okay.
to see it limited to 10 feet in height.
Well, what is it now?
It's around 10 foot 8 and encompasses about 853 cubic.
So the building
Feet.
is 8'3". We were leaving a couple of feet underneath it for snow and like small,
Mhm.
low-lying landscaping virums.
Mhm.
I mean, it's gonna, it'd be a minimum, it has to be 11. I gotta put a couple of feet underneath it, so it would sit at 11 feet. I actually talked to the sign guy on the way here tonight. He said the lowest we probably can set the space, I mean, the bottom of the sign is 2 feet. So, if you're willing to do 11. I just don't want the thing to get buried in the snow.
Right, well, my calculations on square footage of 6'8" by what I figured was 10'8", because there's nothing on here telling me how tall it is totally thrown off by this, but based on the best calculations that I came up with, 10'8" is what you're coming here, but you're telling me 12 feet, because you're looking at,
Yeah, so this is the measurements of the sign.
yeah, this is, well,
This is the
sign
directory,
is-
and then the 22.
this is the sign, right?
Yeah, so this is 8'3" from here to here, and we were gonna put 2 feet here, just for snow. That would make me a 10
Right,
foot.
so and the sign goes higher than, because you're looking at 84 plus 22 plus 24, so you're looking at it at 11 feet as it stands right now. That's 853 cubic feet of sign space. You
You're not
realize,
adding the 2 feet underneath though, are you?
including the two, yes, because that's all part of the sign. It's the height of the sign. It's that I have concerns with.
But that's open, other than the posts.
Yeah, but the height of the sign is my
I'm not talking
concern.
about that, I'm just talking about including the part underneath, where it's just the posts.
Yes, I think that we are being very generous if we even look to approve a sign of this size and magnitude. Is this plan on being lit?
Yeah, ground lit. Yep.
Quickies is not a good
Which is
shit.
allowable by
It
the,
is.
Yeah.
and we don't have any, I mean, this is special permit again.
Right.
So they
No,
can
I
come
know.
in and they can
They
propose
can
what
ask
they
for the
want,
world.
but, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, also you gotta take into consideration people driving down 58.
It's a
You know,
total-
you want a sign so that you can see
Yeah,
it
it's a
though,
total
too.
11 tenants, so I wanted to be able to actually read who's there. I can't make it too small,
Right.
you know?
All right, well,
It's
if
not
you,
one
if
business.
you limit it to 11 feet, I'll meet you in the middle there.
Okay, that's fine. 2 feet's fine underneath it. 11 feet.
Okay, 11 feet total height.
Total height.
Okay.
Thank you.
In regards to lighting, business hours,
Yeah.
No, sign is gonna be 11 feet.
within a half hour.
Dusk?
A half hour before and after the businesses,
Yeah,
which
sure.
would probably
Half
7
hour
in the
before
morning
dusk
till.
and dawn and dusk. Isn't
Can
what
that
we
be
came up
done
with
if you
before?
set it on timers?
That was half
Yeah,
hour.
Okay,
I can't.
all right.
Half
Before.
hour
talking about
after
electrician.
dawn and a half hour after dusk.
Oh, that's
Okay.
fine, yeah.
Yeah, right.
So, okay, so
That's
what,
when they shut off, right?
Right,
A half hour after dusk,
half
though?
hour after dusk.
And then they shut off?
Yeah, the building next to us, Eric's is set that way, and then over there.
Oh.
Yeah.
so how does that work now, so I can put this in the
There's a timer.
decision? So it would be, but dawn and dusk changes during the seasons.
I can change it.
In
It's just
December.
photos.
Right.
And it would have
I'm
to
just
change
saying, when it's
according to
dark
the
at
season.
4:45 in December, you're okay with the...
It can be done, yeah, it can be done with a photo.
So my point is during business hours.
It's
you may
fine.
not
Right, I
have
was
illuminated-
thinking, yeah, I was.
You may not have an illuminated sign during business hours. I just want to point that out.
I'm
What do
okay
you-
with it.
So, so it'll be lit, okay, let me,
You're okay with
let
that?
me,
I'm okay with it.
so
Yeah,
it'll
this
be
is work,
lit.
really.
All right.
Let's go over this again for a second, please. So it'll be half hour, it'll go on a half hour before dusk. Is that what you were saying?
No,
Dawn,
a half hour before dawn.
dawn, half hour after dusk.
Before dawn.
That's-
And shut off a half hour after dusk.
Wait. That makes no sense. You turn
Right.
the lights on during the day?
Well, that was, I
don't
wasn't
think it makes sense
reaching
on
for
it.
that at all. I
Yeah,
was-
no, it should be turning on a half hour before dusk.
Well, you said you wanted it on during business
On
hours.
half
Right,
hour.
and would it,
Well, is
half hour
the
after
business
dusk
open
is when the
from,
sun-
is
is
it,
that not when
is
the
the
sun
business
goes
only
down?
open during the
Yeah,
daylight
usually it
hours?
goes, let's,
There'll be people there at night, they could be, yes.
So-
let's go by time.
yeah,
Why not, like, it's gotta be turned
Dusk
up by
is-
8:30 at night.
Can I say
Right.
something?
Yeah.
It doesn't
That's
matter
what
if
the
the
lights
lights
go
lit or
on.
not, because the
I know, but
building's
sun
gonna
goes down a half
be bright,
hour afterwards.
so the sign doesn't really
Why?
matter.
We have a
So
lot of
that it's
parking lot.
not- an
Pardon me?
eyesore.
We have a lot of lighting.
I know, that's why I'm
But
saying.
what
that
about-
you guys have to
Um,
there's nothing like
What
that.
about business hours?
How about
Yeah,
there's no
shutting the lights off at
So
8:30
businesses
or 9
close
o'clock
at
at
4
night
o'clock
is
in the
fine.
afternoon in December?
Okay, so shut the lights
No.
off by
No,
by 9?
the lights.
Okay.
About
Some
The lights
lights
are
off half hour
that
after
are
business is
operating lights.
closed.
Yeah, but it's a trade
Yeah, I
issue.
mean, this is not an
If you
illuminated.
got a flag.
Yeah, it's
Internally
yeah,
illuminated
it's
sign.
not, yeah,
Ground light, I
yeah.
don't think it's
Yeah,
terribly,
yeah.
you know, it's not like the Rockland Trust sign that you guys approved 2 weeks ago,
Right.
right? I mean, I
Okay, I
don't
don't-
think it's much more benevolent, it's
No,
actually
like,
lighting.
No.
I didn't want to limit them.
This is not the McDonald's sign. This
I don't
is-
want to shut it off at
It's a
4:30 in the
directory,
afternoon.
All right, so, we continue this? Okay, yeah, and no, we haven't, so we gotta vote to continue this
Do you need to
to,
continue it?
yes,
we
we're
were
gonna,
voting on it.
no, no, there is no decision right now. We have no decision, so we'll write up a decision and we'll vote on this the
Oh,
next
okay.
meeting, the same as the one prior.
All right.
So, okay, so I'll accept a motion to continue the meeting for 2 Lillian Way for the sign for November 9th at 7 o'clock.
I'll make that said motion.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay, so Kevin made the motion and Connie. And then Connie second. Okay. All right. All right, so we'll see you at the next meeting.
Thank you, thank you, have a good night.
Thank you. And hopefully we'll finish it up then.
We, you needed to ask us, we're all in agreement with that.
Oh, okay, yeah, so we'll vote, those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, so it's unanimous.
It's confusing now.
Okay, so next is, we have the application of Northlight Realty Trust. This is a continuation of the meeting we had at our last meeting. Application of Northlight Realty Trust requesting site plan review and special permit pursuant to sections 2200, 2300, 2330, 3100, 4300, 5300, and other pertinent sections of the Carver zoning bylaw located at 1 Marion Drive, Assessors Map 21, Lot 4-4, to construct 2 new 7,500 square warehouse office buildings with associated driveways, parking, drainage, and landscape in the Industrial C zoning district. And there's a few things I'd like to say. The first is that there has been no decision written for this tonight. All right, so we're not gonna have a decision tonight. So it'll have to go to our next meeting like everything else. And then we'll vote, once we get a decision written, then we'll vote on it at our next meeting. Okay, part of that reason is because there were comments by Fuss and O'Neill that haven't been addressed yet. Or I think that Andy Glines from Fuss and O'Neill is here. If you could speak about that, Andy.
Yes. Andy Glines, professional civil engineer with Fuss and O'Neill and the town's civil engineering consultant. We received a response to comments last Thursday, I believe the 21st, as well as an updated response to comments letter earlier today. We're in the process of reviewing our response to comments, but we haven't done a thorough review yet. We're going to work to address those comments, or review those comments, address an updated memo to the board as well as the applicant, and potentially the applicant will be able to address those comments prior to the next hearing on the 9th. In the past, we have copied the town planner on that correspondence between us and the applicant. Moving forward, we'll be copying Bruce as well as one of the town planner employees in that correspondence. But ultimately, we'll make sure that the planning board members get a copy of our latest comment memo with any recommendations for potential conditions, as well as a waiver request from the applicant prior to the meeting on the 9th.
All right. Okay, thank you, Andy. So, just to continue that, we did do a site visit there. See, the members that were there were Ellen was there, and Connie and Rich and myself were there at the site meeting. And the way I took it, looking at the plans and speaking to Mr. Artiano and his daughter, the buildings, and there is a rendering of the buildings, are going to look the same as the buildings that are in the park right now, the existing buildings. And so there is a good buffer between the buildings and Plymouth Street. And I think there was one neighbor that was across the street. Mr. Adriano said that that he had talked to that neighbor, and really the neighbor doesn't have and I don't think he's going to have a view of the buildings anyway. So these are very nice buildings. I mean, anybody that can drive through the industrial park there can see that the buildings are well designed, meet the bylaws. The whole park is nice and neat, well landscaped, well treed. And you can see it off of Route 44, and it always looks nice. So that's all I have to say on that. I don't know if there's anything that Mr. Ariano or Greg Morse, his engineer, has to say.
I mean, just quickly to summarize, since the last meeting, Greg Morse for the record, Morse Engineering. We submitted the revised plans as was stated with a response to the comments by Fuss and O'Neill. We also addressed the fire department's comments. We provided a fire truck turning analysis showing the movements around the building and some additional information per the fire request. I believe you have correspondence from them at this point that they're okay with everything at the site. So we look forward to hearing back the second round of review, but I think we're on a positive motion.
All right. Any questions by any of the planning board members?
I look forward to reading that before I have any questions to see how some of the issues in the original engineering report were addressed.
Okay. I don't know how it works now, but can you email anything that you send me? Can you also send it to the other planning board members too? Or
Certainly, if
just
that's
so
how the
that they
board
get
would
it,
like to
'cause-
receive everything.
yeah, because I can understand that, as it stands right now, hopefully within the next day or two, I'm gonna have a meeting with the town administrator and figure out who's responsible in the office here to help me out with the stuff that's coming in where it should be sent here at town hall. I don't want that stuff all coming down to my house, and I don't have adequate parking for Mackey Engineering in front of my house,
Yeah, I'll reach out to the planning department tomorrow, get all your
email addresses,
or
okay.
preferred form of contact.
Yeah,
In the past, I didn't want to inundate all of you with emails, but given the current situation with the town staff, happy to do that. And although Fuss and O'Neill has had phone conversations with other applicants in the past, I always make sure to follow up those phone conversations with an email summarizing them, because really, I don't want to have any direct contact with the applicants that the board and the town aren't aware of, so
okay.
continue to do that moving forward.
All right, thank you, Andy. And thank you for being here tonight. All right, so I think everybody has spoken that wants to speak, or, okay. Hard to see people's expressions with a mask on, so all I see is eyes. So, okay, so I'll entertain a motion to continue the meeting for Northlight Realty Trust on 1 Marion Drive to our next meeting on November 9th and at 7 o'clock.
I'll make that motion.
Please be my guest.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, so Kevin made the motion and Ellen second. And so those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so unanimous. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you.
All right, I don't know if anybody, is Sarah Stearns
I saw
here?
her, she's here.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's downstairs already.
she's here for us? She's here for us, I believe.
She's updating us on the weather vane project?
Yes.
Do you want me to get her?
If you don't mind,
I
yeah.
can see if she's down there tonight. She was there earlier.
I saw her next door.
Yeah, I think,
I saw her downstairs.
I will stay for this discussion, I just wanna stretch my legs when I get a chance.
I don't.
All right, let me go on then.
Here she is.
Oh, okay, here's
That was
Sarah.
fast, yeah.
Well, thank you very much for doing that for us.
Too late. Took you too late.
Been up over an hour.
Good night.
All right,
I'm not asking for anything tonight. Not really.
we have a pad of paper there to a sign-in sheet. If people that haven't signed in, please sign that sheet, your name and address or business that you're representing. Were you heard at another meeting
Huh?
today? Is this the only meeting you were here for tonight, or did
Yeah.
you go some other place too?
No, I've just been here for you.
Because the building was busy and I didn't
Yeah.
know what was going on.
No, we were just down there trying
Okay.
to stay out of everyone's way.
All right. Okay, so this is just a discussion, is a presentation and update by Weather Vane, and this is about Patriot Pines. Sorry for the accommodations, but
No problem. They're still going next door, so
okay.
it wouldn't have worked.
Well, we could have gone downstairs too, I guess, but then I set everything up and then
Yeah.
to go downstairs after that other meeting.
Yep. Shall we get started?
Yes,
Okay.
please, Sarah, yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, since it's not an official public hearing, but just for the board, just wanted to introduce myself. Sarah Stearns from Beals and Thomas, and with me tonight is Mark Romanowitz, design consultant for Weather Vane and Patriot Pines, as some of us know the project as, our project attorney Jeff Taccio, and hiding in the back is the landowner and applicant Jim Bristol from Weather Vane Companies. So thank you for your time tonight. I know you've already had a long night, so we'll be brief, but we just thought this was a good opportunity to come into the board informally, give an update as to where we are with the project, and just kind of touch on the history a little bit for anybody who was not on the board during the initial review for this project. I think it was just Kevin and Bruce, right, for the earliest, for the earlier approval.
We're the
So-
last surviving
Last
members of the,
Last of the Mohicans.
of the last planning board, yes.
Yeah. So anyway, so we just wanted to come in and just have the opportunity informally just to have a back and forth about the project and bring everybody up to speed and let you know where we are and what we're thinking for next steps and just get some feedback from the board. So very quickly, to recap what we three have lived through. 2017, a 19-lot, single-family house project was approved on the site off of South Meadow Road, across from the airport, next to Village Links Golf Club. It's all in Carver, but it is like on the Plymouth Carver town line. So the entirety of the property is in Carver. It's about 30 acres. So that was 2017 with a different applicant and landowner at the time. Almost immediately after that permit was in hand, the ink was still wet. The applicant at the time said, I think it might be better to do a townhouse development as opposed to single family. Carver doesn't have anything like that. It seems like it would be a good fit, and it seems like the market is craving something like that. So we put that in the shredder and came back to the planning board with a 54-unit townhouse development on the same property, but laid out very differently from the 19 single-family house lot. Oh, Andy was there too, or your colleague at the time. And I also wanted to point out, with the 19-lot subdivision, there's a neighborhood on Wade Street adjacent to this property, and they were not pleased with the 19-lot house and layout, as you guys probably recall.
Well, they were pleased because the drainage for the roadway
Yep.
and design
Well, and
sort of abutted the back of lines of their property.
Yes, and
Yeah.
the house lot, there were a number of house lots that backed up to existing lots, so their yards would have been, anyway, it was an as-of-right subdivision, so no waivers were needed. It was pretty straightforward, but they weren't happy about it. So then we came back with the 54-unit townhouse, and it was embraced by the Wade Street neighbors because all of the development was on the golf course side of the subdivision road. And so it left a lot of green space and open space adjacent to the Wade Street neighborhood. So that was, a lot more palatable. People came and spoke in support of the project, which we don't see that often. So it was a much better feeling. And then Mr. Bristol got involved. We came back to the board for a modification to phase 1. So the project was broken into 3 separate phases. Phase 1 was the first thing we discussed about modifying, really more just to fit the weather vane brand. Jim has done this in other communities, and so there were some modifications made to that, and we worked with Andy to kind of go through some of that. Thank you, Mark. So that was the approved plan. So that is 24 single units, and that's the drainage, roadway drainage. Each of the 3 phases has a shared wastewater system. There are wells throughout the project. And then soon after that, it was brought to our attention that in Carver, the zoning bylaw does not allow for single units under the townhouse definition, which allows for 3 to 5 units. So as many of you know, anecdotally, through discussions over the past year or so, there have been different ideas to try to solve that problem related to this project and overall related to the zoning bylaw, which have been unsuccessful. So we've been back to the drawing board. We've been meeting with planning staff, building commissioner, fire department, COMCOM, basically everyone who works in this building over the past few months. And tonight, we just wanted to share a new concept with you, because whatever happens with this design modification has to come back to the board for review. So this is a good opportunity for you to ask questions and for us to give information.
I'm sorry to
Go ahead,
disturb
Ellen.
you.
Yeah.
I seem to remember going to this area, and there was like a model home there.
Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, and just to orient, usually I have my aerial photo that I start with, but Mark is Vanna tonight, so this is South Meadow Road, and if you drive by this area, the airport's over here, there's a chain link fence and a gate here, and you can see in that this is cleared.
I went in and walked around.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Don't tell anybody.
Jim.
We know.
Yes.
That's all right, you were with me, so it's okay.
So there's 2 houses standing, this one, and there are 2 foundations in place.
Yep, so that's what you've seen.
So,
That's worth.
right, it makes
Go
sense to
ahead.
take. So, trying to get to a situation as part of talking about where we were on coming to solutions, we actually spoke with town council, just try to come up with how we get from single family to where we need to go. pretty much the options were go to triplexes or do a 40B. And we were just like, you know, we don't want to be part of a 40B here in this situation. The triplexes were interesting because they require sprinklers. So in speaking with fire department, that was quite clear. So that was something that we had to get our heads around how we could accommodate that. And then also be in a situation where all of the roads are in, utilities are in, all the infrastructure's in. So when you went onto the land, you actually saw the two houses, you saw two foundations, you saw, if you looked around, all of the different utility connections, et cetera. So in coming up with something, we had to craft a solution that accommodates all the roadways, et cetera. And again, it's 24 single-family houses that are have already been approved and arrayed under that minor modification. What we're doing tonight is to come in informationally with you folks, hopefully prior to the filing of a minor modification request for, I think this should hopefully be the money shot. Voila. We've come up, Mark just does wonderful work. We've come up with an array where we can use all of the existing infrastructure that's already approved, installed, inspected, et cetera, and be in a position where we've got 8 triplexes. Again, it doesn't change anything with the number of the dwellings. These all comply with the definition of townhouse under that whole townhouse section 3900. We've been in a position where Mark has put circles around in the blue. Those are the 2 existing. So those are going to be something that we can incorporate into the triplexes. And then the 2 red are the foundations that are already in place.
Can you define triplex?
Sure. Triplex under 3900 is basically greater than 2, not exceeding 5, I believe. Your bylaw,
It's townhouse definition.
it's a
Yeah,
big
greater than
townhouse.
2, yes.
So so triplex here would be 3 dwelling units within 1 building.
Okay.
So we looked at this a bunch of ways, and this winds up complying. And we've been speaking locally, just trying to work towards how do we get this going. We're coming up for the winter. We've got the partially completed houses. We're going to have freezes. I think the neighbors want to see something, get completed here. So this is where we are this evening. You can see that it lays out. We're able to, again, use all of the same roads, all the utility connections. And then I think on the next one, what are we running? This is what these look like, and I'll ask Mark if you can.
So this is one of the traditional homes that Jim would build, and this is here, and this is. So what we're trying to do is get some usable space between them. So in this case, this would be a garage and maybe a workshop or a craft room. So it's heated, conditioned space. It's connecting the building to the foundation. There's a roof. This would be a 3-season, a 4-season room, or it could be a den or a study. Again, we're back over here with another shop or craft room, and the same thing here. So we've connected the building to satisfy the building department as far as a townhouse. So traditionally, you'd see these all really pushed tight together, but what happens is they really live like single-family homes. They've got good separation, so we can create privacy with landscape in these locations. And the elevation works pretty nicely because these are set back or forward. So in elevation, they really work pretty well. You can see a blow-up of the floor plans, a little clearer, so your driveway, some landscape areas here. Usually there's some kind of separation of backyard space. And traditionally, you'll have just a screen porch, 3-season room, 4-season, or patio that lives to the rear. In that elevation, again, just a blow-up of that last one, but it works well for our purposes. We like the way it looks. Homeowners have that separation. It really will live like a single-family home.
Is it an over 55?
Yes.
Yeah. So it winds up, this is all within, he's got, a business model where he's done these in other towns. They're very popular, they're really good, because you don't have the school kids. From a town revenue perspective, they're just, really in the black for the communities. And they work out really well. Where they're condominiums, they're able to have, maintenance, plowing, all of those different elements are all handled. And with, baby boomers, you know, it really works well.
They'll all be on one common lot, or
Yeah.
the
Correct.
whole thing is one common lot?
Yes.
Yeah, one home, one ownership, or one homeowner's ownership or condominium.
And that's unchanged from how the project started. I mean, the goal was,
The second time.
no,
Well, we had the original
The 54
19 lot,
unit.
and then
the
we went to
19 lot
54.
is, you know, done.
You don't want to remember that.
Well, I mean, it was fine for the property, but like we were saying, you know, the neighbors weren't psyched about it, and it wasn't necessarily the best use for the land. So this was a kind of a rebrand of what was out there. And so the goal, because this is no longer just on paper, this is under construction, was really to design something that utilizes what's on the ground rather than having to rip everything up
The
and start
model
from
was
scratch.
beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great place, but and you know, we understand that it, you know, it needs to conform to the definition. So, you know, I think really all we've done with this phase one is connect the units that, you know, weren't originally connected. It maintains the same footprint so that, you know, again, the Wade Street folks, there's no change as far as they're concerned in terms of like proximity to their existing homes. Like, it's as close to what was originally drawn as possible, but now meets that triplex requirement. So, you know, and again, just to like call out Mark's clouds on there, those are the units that are
You can see
under
that
construction or
we're
built.
we're really within the same disturbance line all the way around, respecting the 40-foot setback that we did before. So it's really just a slight adjustment. We get a little more space, so some of these homes are a little bit closer because we don't have to, now that we're putting fire protection in, we don't have to live with a 30-foot separation.
Right.
So there'll be some landscape areas here that will take advantage of that opportunity to use the land that way.
And,
One other note,
Yep.
that Weathervane builds a home that is really pretty maintenance-free on the exterior. They built in Weymouth 150 odd homes, I think.
Yeah.
And they're 20 years old and they look like they were built yesterday. It's easy maintenance, the exteriors are well put together and.
Are they modular or?
No, it's all built from stick frame, which you might call where it's framed individually. There are a few homes that Jim tried out building fabricated, prefabricated, brought in on the foundation, and he put the foundation and set that on there. I'm not sure which way we'll go in the beginning.
Well,
but
stick built.
Yeah, sick.
They're not recognizable as a manufactured home because they were customized for his plan.
So I see that you have the foundations there.
Yeah.
Now, where you're joining the houses together, is that gonna be slab?
It could be a
Frost
crawl.
wall and a slab.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because if it's a crawl space, you could always cut that off and then you're just breaking it up again, you know?
Right, yep.
Right.
So you really couldn't be a crawl space.
No, typically those connectors will be frost wall and
Slab.
slab. Yep.
Especially when if there's a workshop in a garage where it's a slab on grade already with a frost wall, we probably want to continue that same detail.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
And it's not just, you know, a crawl space under there, you know?
Yep.
Because, you know, down the line, you could cut them off and throw them away,
Right.
and you're back to a single house.
Oh, we'd never do that.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
Well,
Maybe if you bought the house, you might do it, I'm not sure.
under the definition of townhouse, it's one continuous
Right.
foundation. So you start off to the left and you go from unit to unit, and they're all supposed to be connected by a foundation, and they're all together.
That's what I was
Yeah,
asking.
yeah, yeah.
We'll have to as-built this, and the condominium documents will show that there's, this is how it's built. There's no changing it after the condominium documents.
I mean, it looks, I like it, you know, you created something there to
Well,
get.
Right. We talked about some roof connectors and some foundations, but Jim had a great idea. Let's make it usable, sellable space that take advantage of this.
No, I think it looks great that way, because you have like 3 housing units that are connected, but they really don't, they look connected, but they really don't look connected,
Right.
you know, it's a different
Typical.
kind of concept, and I like it, I think it looks great.
That, with landscape and the undulation of the elevation going in and out, it really gives you some nice streetscape. And we're able to angle the building, which in a typical townhouse, you really want to build them straight. You don't.
That's right.
And you get an extra room out of it all.
Yeah.
You really do.
Yeah.
So what we're doing right now is just This right now is we're just looking for another minor modification for this to just bite off phase one and be able to, frankly, get everyone working again and get this, so that we can start to go into the winter in good shape. And then there's one other thing that we want to add, which was discussed back, but it was never placed, and that has to do with the mailroom. So at the entrance,
So the entrance, so I'll just turn this,
so when you drove in there, it's already a boulevard, it's all laid out, all the utilities are under there. So what the weather vanes do is we have a community mailroom, so package deliveries go here, FedEx, et cetera, and it's only 400 feet, comes in, it's got 6 parking spaces, so, everything complies, and when we actually come in to you folks, we'll give you all the math. Meets the setback from the front, it's entirely compliant. What this looks like, and this is the one in Weymouth, but it's basically 20 by 20 on the usable structure, and then it's got a really nice roof overhang, which allows for those, kind of a porch where people can talk. It's a, kind of a meeting type area. This all flies in under the purposes of the whole townhouse, to have something which provides public convenience, community gathering spaces, et cetera.
And next to a golf course.
What's that?
And next to a golf course.
Yeah,
An added bonus.
Right. So it's got a nice feel to it, but, Mark's got, right now, we've just got the drawing here. Sarah's already working on, the engineered plans for it, but we thought for you folks, we'd show you what it winds up looking like. So we'll add that to the request. So it will be to be able to array the houses in this order, and then also to be able to place this and construct this community mailroom.
So now, you said you've worked with the, see, this is the first time within a week or so that I've heard about this. I don't remember Jim ever saying anything about it recently, and so, but you've been working with the building inspector, and you've been working with our town council?
Yes. Yep,
yeah.
Jeff has spoken with Amy.
Okay.
So we'll show this to Amy when we're done, but she was,
Yes,
we've
I
been
would
trying
like
to think
that.
of ways to get at this, and she looked at it and she said, she said, Jeff, I see you either build, the triplexes, or you have to, go the other route. And we looked at different avenues, et cetera, and they kind of came up empty. So we had to go back to the well, and it all came down to, we knew we could do this, but each building has to be sprinkled. So that's it's rather considerable investment, but if that's what it takes to get these going, to get people back to work, et cetera, that's the decision that was made.
Now, are these 2 stories, or are they just 1.5?
1.5 stories. There's no
So they
true-
do have a room upstairs, or is it
Yeah.
just attic space?
Guest bedroom and a loft space typically.
Okay.
And if
All right.
people want to, sometimes they'll upgrade to,
Down here.
they might upgrade over a garage for a bonus space, but
Mhm.
typically a loft and a guest bedroom and a bathroom.
Mhm.
Are they custom? Somebody buys it and they want extra?
I think, well, Jim will probably.
We end
answer
up doing a lot of custom work. Once it gets rolling, we think they'll be popular, and before you can finish them, people are in line for them, so that's been our experience. Weymouth, Hingham, other places that we've done this. So we appreciate you folks took this to town meeting, tried to change the townhouse definition.
I did, right.
Yeah, it was unsuccessful.
That I remember.
If you can tweak it to get duplexes or singles in the future, we might look at that in phase 2 and 3 are here. But this at least gets us to get back to work. This place has been tumbleweeds for a year. It's been frustrating for us, the bank, everybody involved. Mark and I worked on this design, and we feel like we've come up with something pretty unique that addresses everything we need to do to get it back on track. So.
I think it's great. I think it'd make a great addition to Carver. I think it goes with everything. It's really nice. I don't know if I'm going way ahead of things, but eventually this is gonna have to be addressed, is what do we do with affordable units on something like this?
Yep, we're gonna have to at some point. But right now, while, you know, we still, phases 2 and 3 are out there, et cetera. Right now, you know, we're not going anywhere, we just need to get started. And
Doing
we'll
that,
be- I'm sure we'll be coming back before you folks to discuss that. But right now, short term, we came up with what we think is a win-win solution. So we'd like to get in on this and, see what we can come in before you folks. We realize we need some more detail, so what we'd do is we'd request if we could just file for a minor modification, but Sarah's got, more of the engineering. I know Andy's available to, start to go through it.
What's the minor modification that you're requesting?
So the minor modification would be to change, if I could,
The original?
to change the last minor modification, which had to do with this phase 1 right there.
So it's a redesign of the site, but that's,
Well, it's a
Hard to read.
redesign of the buildings,
Right.
actually.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
the
that's,
footprints-
So the roads are there. I
Correct.
mean, let me just speak about it, because Ellen and I were out there. The roads are in, the underground utilities are in, the drainage is in, and somebody can yell at me if I misspeak. And so what they're looking for is, instead of having the single family, they're still gonna use the same roadway and everything else, but they're just gonna combine the buildings into three units apiece, instead of having all the singles there. I guess the only question that I have is how is this going to affect the drainage in the area, if there's going to be, because you kind of, because the buildings are in different areas and stuff, is this going to make it so that the drainage calculations have to be revisited, or what?
So, we are working on that right now. We didn't want to submit anything tonight because we really felt like we needed to have this preliminary meeting just so we could have this conversation. But we're preparing a revised grading and drainage plan. There are minor differences, but for the most part, it is very similar to the existing approved plan in terms of the major drainage basins. Minor updates to each of the areas surrounding. It's relatively flat site, so there was never a huge amount of grading needed, and it's all sand practically, so it drains beautifully. But the plan is to, similarly to what we did for this minor mod, submit a revised grading and drainage plan and stormwater report to Professor O'Neill's review, and we usually have a little back and forth with a memo or two and address whatever items come up through that, but it's a minor update.
It's really the roof, the only addition really to impervious are these connector roofs, and
Yeah.
they're, 10 by 20.
I mean, as you know, most of the drainage change comes as a result of the addition of the roadway. And
Yes,
that's done
yeah.
and not moving. So just, if we were adding buildings, that would change it, but it's just the connection of the same number of units, so it's not.
And
I
that's
don't wanna
handled by
put
gutters,
words in
right?
your mouth, but-
Sorry, what were you
Basically
gonna say,
handled by
Jeff?
gutters.
Well, gutters, but it goes on the ground and then drains according to the topography to the road, and then to the drainage basins.
Yeah, my initial assessment, we'll definitely take a closer look at this, is that they'll have minor changes in the impervious coverage, but that's gonna be additional roof area. They won't have the same sediment loads and pretreatment requirements that additional roadway would have. And I imagine most of their drainage revisions are gonna be for conveyance to get it to the stormwater treatment practices that they already had proposed. So we'll certainly wanna see any changes to the sub-watershed boundaries and updated model and calculations, but I believe this would fall within a minor modification review for that. And I guess the only other thing, definitely defer to Carver Fire and Jesse Boyle on the fire suppression aspect. But I guess on the site civil side of things, just want to make sure that there was backup on the demand, and actually, that the distribution system within the development was, can handle the, potential demand for actually providing fire suppression for these buildings that wasn't originally planned for.
Yeah, and I think, we're still in discussions with Jesse related to that. He's given us some really good advice and some options for local vendors, and continue to work with Carver Fire on that. But a lot of the units have their own reservoir within each of the buildings, so don't necessarily draw from the wells,
So it's just the hydrants that were on the road that were, I guess using
Those
the
are
water
dry.
main.
Those are dry. Oh.
Yeah,
But yeah.
So there's nothing.
Yeah, so yeah, it'll sort of depend on what system ends up ultimately is chosen for these units, but we've already started talking with him, and, I was actually gonna mention that to the board too. Jesse provided a summary. We provided this sketch for his review as well, and we've been talking about fire suppression, so he did provide just a quick note. I think he emailed it to you and a couple other folks at Town Hall, just with a lack of planner at the moment, but just something for the file that, for the board's understanding that we are committed to working with them, and we have a good conversation going already. We also took the opportunity to have an informal meeting with the building commissioner and walked him through basically what we're talking about tonight, knowing that he's kind of just coming into this as well, just the background of phase one previous to phase one proposed, and in terms of his role as the zoning enforcement officer, talking about this, revival of the plan meeting the definition of townhouse, to which he thought this was a good idea, and actually gave us a couple of interesting design tips as well, so that we can incorporate that. So, I think we're on the right track here, and it feels like a minor update, but because of the elongated conversation we've had and different paths we've started to go down, we wanted to just make sure we talk to you personally about, what we think now is the path forward, and that it gives the board an avenue to have this discussion and review, so.
Well, I think since you've talked to the building inspector and talked to town council, and Andy's here tonight looking at this, gave his views for minor modification. To me, it looks like a good project, and I love the looks of it. The only one other question I have is I know that when Ellen and I were out there trespassing, we noticed that a lot was, the land had been cleared out there. Of course, she had cleared for the roads, and so there's really not too much additional cutting or clearing that's going to have to be done out there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all within, the current area right here.
Yeah, it looks like it had already been staged for, to put in foundations and start building the single-family homes.
Yeah, but some of the water lines that run, because there's individual, you might have seen individual wells throughout, there's 3 of them, and some of the water line is actually installed along the common 40-foot boundary, so it can and keep it out of the construction zone.
Okay.
How much land is actually there?
I don't know what this parcel is.
It's
right
about
here.
30 acres, the footprint of this parcel.
Just phase one?
Total. Oh, sorry, no, the whole
And
parcel is
the
30
whole-
acres.
Okay.
And how much is this particular?
A third of that, roughly.
I'm guessing it's
Roughly.
4 or 5 acres in this zone.
I mean,
It's got more down there.
yeah, I mean, it's a very long, narrow site, and it's roughly broken up into thirds, each of the phases. So, I mean, 10 to 15 maybe in this front part.
But you're looking at the homes there on the top, but on the other side of the road, there's much more, there's more land
there's a
on
lot of
that side,
common
it's just
area
not
that's
shown.
protected,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not,
Going down to Wade.
yeah.
Does it show on
It's
this,
woods, and there's a little cranberry bog,
Mm.
and then there's some houses further down into Wade Street, adjacent to the
It
property.
looks like the property line, that's the page. No, that's the property line right there, because you can see the neighbor's,
Yep.
the neighbor's property. So the property
Okay.
line
I'll
So
put an
there's a
aerial
good chunk
photo in
of
the
area.
submission, just so we have a full
Okay.
site plan.
All right.
A question on the last one, how come some of the connectors are offset in such a manner?
Just to give some relief to so that the front of the building wasn't one straight line. It's nice to have offset. Are you talking about this?
I'm talking about like building number 8 and building number 4, the connectors are offset rather than providing a clear straight line, or the appearance of
Oh, okay.
it being
See-
a
see how-
singular
yeah.
singular building rather than.
Oh, there was some utilities, I think, in this area that we had to be careful of.
Yeah, there's a couple of drain lines too that are in.
I think it would be better to try and work around that and try and make it look like a more cohesive single unit rather than, just a suggestion,
Sure.
rather than it appearing to be separate units, but
A shared wall instead of a shared corner.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. I mean, if you had to go around utilities, I mean, when you see, I mean, we were just discussing with the last thing off of Lillian Way, they wanted jogs in the building, and now you're saying, well, you know, I want it straight, I don't want the jogs. I think when you look at the front of the buildings, just to see all those, I mean, it looks nice with the jogs and the, and things in it. I don't think.
I think that issue will come out when we go in for the building permits, because that's something that the building inspector will look at to make sure that it meets the definition.
Yeah.
It's also gonna come out in our engineer drawing, because this is just a sketch, keep in mind. Like, this is not set in stone by any.
What?
Yeah, sorry, but I know you worked hard on it, but there are a few things that will need to be avoided. I know for a fact there's a couple of drain lines that we'll need to work around, and it doesn't mean that they need to be at, you know, a specific angle, but we may just
As
need
long
to
as
get
we get
creative.
the review of this, yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just so happy to see this come about where you can go ahead and do something with the property.
Yep.
Yeah, because it was,
I mean,
I was like, oh my God.
Well, I'm sure the neighborhood would enjoy this part at least,
Yeah.
to pick back up and not just be the
Right,
dust
you
bowl
you
next
got
to
a
their
dust bowl
homes.
there now,
I mean, it
with
is, and-
a couple abandoned homes
Yeah, and
and
it's
some
not good for
foundations.
anybody. It's not good for the community. It's not good for Jim and his crew.
Mm.
The only other thing I just wanted to touch on too is part of the minor mod application, we would include that little mailroom. And I don't know if you guys remember it, but you maybe remember it. We did talk about it in quite a bit of detail. The plan was to come back to the board once construction started on phase 1 with this plan. So we sat down with Jim Walsh and Andy and spoke about the addition of this, and then things stopped, so we didn't have the opportunity to bring it to the board. So this has been, Jim actually thought that we had already done it, because we had talked about it so much.
Oh, about that building there at the entrance, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So we said, we looked back in the file and we were like, we never got to the board for that. So that was something that had been talked about quite a bit with staff anyway, and Fuss and O'Neill, but never made it to the board.
Yeah,
because
we
the
kinda hit a
project got
stone
shut down.
wall at that point there.
What's that?
We hit a stone wall at that point.
Yes, quite literally. Yeah, so anyway, that's something that
Okay.
has been accommodated for in the layout of the road.
Okay.
Because it was so close to being addressed. So, I mean, the road was set up that way anyway, per discussions with the fire department, with one way in and one way out, sort of the boulevard that Jeff alluded to. So it makes sense with the weather vane brand, and also the location of it works. So anyway, that would be part of the application related to phase 1 as well.
All right, so, I don't know, you know, just to inform the board, there was already an approved project there. It was approved by the planning board. We had public hearings for that. Neighbors, there wasn't any objections from the neighbors at all. So by doing a minor modification, you don't have to notify the neighbors. We'll just connect the buildings and that'll be it. I think the neighbors would be happy just to have something there and not, I imagine the dust and dirt and everything blowing, and since it's very similar in a lot of ways to what the single family ones were. So if under a minor modification, or modification, I guess, you don't have to go back and do refilings with conservation and go through all that. So that's the reason they're asking for a minor modification, which in this particular case, I don't think is unreasonable, because it's pretty much the same consideration, but just the buildings are tied together.
Yep, and just to add to that, Bruce, the footprint is really what the neighborhood was concerned about with the single-family homes, and this preserves the footprint that the Wade Street neighbors appreciated. So there's no change to the setbacks or the green space on their side of the road.
Right, the neighbors would be very happy because, it doesn't go right up against the back of the lots.
Oh, no, I mean, it's the same footprint as what was originally approved.
Right, and that's why the neighbors were happy with the one that you came up with that before.
Like I said, we don't get a lot of people coming to speak in support of projects. And
No.
that one in particular, we had a number of people from the neighborhood.
Yeah, because they were so
Didn't
grateful
come.
that they didn't have houses abutting their rear property lines.
Yeah, and that was another factor in this redesign, to respect that history and discussions with the neighborhood there off of Wade Street. So I think that this is a perfect way to do that.
So, again, I'm just happy that, I know there was a misunderstanding there at the beginning, and then there were two homes there, but I'm glad that this was resolved. It took a while to resolve it, but I think it's certainly for the benefit of the neighborhood in that area, and for the town too. We talk about supporting our businesses. This is an over 55 community, and I'm just saying this because a lot of the planning board members weren't here when we approved the first one. And then for an over 55 community, they use less water, so there's less sewerage than, say, a family with children and stuff like that. But they also benefit the businesses around town too. The restaurants, the shops, and the different businesses that are in Carver. So, it's and they don't contribute to the school system. So that's a plus. So I think it's kind of a win-win situation for all. Unfortunately, fortunately, I guess, for people my age, there are communities like this, because a lot of people just don't want to be in their homes anymore. They can't maintain their homes, they can't maintain their mowing lawns and trimming the bushes and all the things that you did when you were young. So you have communities like this, and they're beautiful. I've seen them in Situate and Cohasset and the places that I used to work out of in Hingham, and they're really a great contribution to the Carver, I think.
Just to add one thing there too, Bruce, that since you brought up the wastewater, so all of that infrastructure remains unchanged. Water supply, wastewater, just because the number of units is exactly the same as the original design. So, just to the discussion of updates, Andy's writing it down so he knows.
I take notes for everything
Like
these days.
just so you know what he's getting, it's just it's really just grading and drainage update. So no change to septic or water supply or utility infrastructure that's in place. All of that is going to be used in the very same manner that was already intended.
So it's well water.
There are multiple wells that will service each unit for potable water, yes. Yep, no water mains. There's a water main in Plymouth, but we're on the wrong side of the line.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So close,
They're wells.
yet so far.
Yes. So all that's, the well locations with setbacks, the wastewater, we're working with Kevin Ford at the health department through all of that. He's been out to the site multiple times. We've done test pits all over this place, you know, so none of that changes. He's got all the plans for that.
So as far as the wastewater, I forget now, it's not like you have an individual building and then you have a septic system in back or in front of the house. This is gonna be a I can't say that word, everybody's gonna.
Common community.
A common community
Yep.
system. And is it also treated somewhat too, so that, or how does that work?
It's a typical septic system. It's just
Okay, but it's
shared
just a
amongst
shared system,
the
okay.
units within each of the phases. So
Okay.
there will be 3 systems built out as each phase comes online or
Okay.
is constructed. So really the focus now is on phase 1. Phases 2 and 3 will come later in a new set of plans and new discussion with the board when we get to that. But for now, it's
Yeah.
just, you know, it's not a groundwater treatment system because the numbers are so low with the over 55 water use. So it's, you know, it's really just a big shared system for each phase.
Yeah, I myself only take a shower once a month, so
There you
I've
go.
cut down a lot on the water. So, okay, any other questions by planning board members? So what's the next step now? Oh, you're gonna come before us?
Yeah, I guess the plan would be we'll finish up our engineered drawings and we can submit, we'll copy you. Just for lack of staff, we'll copy Jill or Michelle in the office, so they have a file copy, and we'll send the drawings to Fuss and O'Neill for their review. We'll come in whenever we're ready and have the materials prepared and have a discussion with the board about
Okay.
the minor mod for phase 1.
Okay,
And then hopefully continue construction.
okay, all right.
And then we'll come back for phases 2 and 3 with a new application. That's probably not gonna be a modification. We'll more than likely have a new filing for that. That's gonna be more detailed because,
Oh, okay.
well, we never amended phases 2 or 3. We only started with phase 1. So phases 2 and 3, as they stand right now, are like the original plan. So it's not, you know, it hasn't been made weather vane-esque.
Okay,
So they're-
and you haven't got utilities out on phases 2 or 3 yet,
How
did
far
you?
did they go? No, just phase 1.
Okay, so you still have raw land out
Yeah,
there.
yeah. So that's gonna be a bigger discussion. That'll be a public hearing and but, you know, that's a few
That's
months
on the
out.
other side of the minor
Sure, no, I
modification.
understand.
Yeah.
You
This
wanna,
is the
you wanna deal with
buildings.
this.
Just because it's already
First.
under construction, you know, if we were still talking about this on paper, maybe it would be a different discussion, but I think, you know, because it's underway, it just sort of makes sense to focus on phase 1 for the short term and then, you know, come back to you all with phases 2 and 3, you know, a more developed plan.
So you have 24 units here.
Yes.
So you're gonna have, what, 10% affordable here? I think that's, I have to take a look at
I
that.
have to go back to look at the numbers, honestly.
But you would put those in another phase as it's being developed.
Most likely. Right
Yeah.
now, before we just need to know what the future's gonna look like as far as, you know, the build-outs. Goal number 1 is just getting these, you know, those 2 existings heated, getting things going so that
Okay.
we know that the phase 1 can start to go forward. Jim even mentioned like the lender, et cetera. There are a lot of reasons to get this going, put it into production.
Okay.
You know, one of them is, you know, historic mortgage, you know, low rates, et cetera. There's just
Right now.
big demand for housing right now, and you just got to get the front side going. But if this looks doable from your perspective, we'd like to get Sarah busy finishing up the plans, getting them over to you know, peer review, and then get the package you know, to you folks so that we can hopefully get this thing going.
I think it's doable for me. I don't know how the other members feel, and I think it looks better than the original project. So, I don't know, how does everybody
agree.
feel? Yeah.
I agree as well.
Mhm.
And it will be our intent in phase 2 and 3 to leave the same open space buffer over to Wade Street, so
Yeah.
we'll be designing in the same area that was previously permitted, so.
Okay.
Hopefully these sell and it's more of the same.
All right,
Thanks
thank you.
very much.
Thank
It's a
you for your
beautiful
time.
night out there.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know. Everyone drive safely.
Yep.
As long as we have electricity, we're all set.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks again.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
So I'll just coordinate with the office downstairs for filing stuff.
Yeah, I don't know who, I mean,
I'll just-
I don't know who's exactly handling the planning business.
Okay.
Other than myself right now. So, hopefully within the next couple days we'll find out. But I guess if you do Jill right
Yeah.
now, it'll get
I'll
to
make sure
her
I
and
copy you.
and then me too, just to keep me in the loop.
Okay, and
Thank you. And Andy too,
I
yes.
appreciate that. Okay.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you
Sarah.
all.
Okay.
See you hopefully in a few weeks.
All right, so let's go on. Let's go on to other business, and to try to do this quickly, it's getting late. And I don't know if we're gonna have to canoe home or not, but, planning board member notes, and so, I've been getting questions from the planning board members and, from the public, about what's happening with the solar on Tremont Street and Rochester Road. That's where the wood pilings or the wood supports went into the cranberry bogs instead of what was on planned, which was metal, helical, I guess they call them, type supports. So I spoke with Brooke Monroe today, and she said that right now both those projects have been stopped. They're going, and the Conservation Commission is still looking at that. And so the next Conservation Commission hearing is on November 17th. And so we'll see where it goes from there. I've already today informed the company that's doing this that even if they go over the hurdle of Concom, which I'm not so sure that's gonna happen, but I don't wanna say that, whatever happens with Concom. If they meet that hurdle, then they have to come to the planning board for some sort of a modification. So that's where that stands right now for everybody that wanted to know what we were doing with that. So under planning director notes, well, I guess they may as well speak about that too. We're in the process, accepting, we've posted the job. I think we still have another week to accept resumes for applications for the job. And then I'm working with Elaine Weston and Shelby Roy from the Selectman's office, and hopefully we'll schedule some interviews soon. It all depends on the applicants, and it all depends upon experience that they have. But, so we are working on that. I did discuss, and I have to call tomorrow, I'll call Serped and see if they have an interim person that may fill in. Or I did talk to Elaine yesterday about putting an advertisement out for, or how that works, about advertising for a part-time, maybe like a retired person or something like that, what we have to do to get that done. So we are working on that. So that's where, so, and Jim is still working with us 20 hours a week from home. So I talk to him every day, and we discuss what's going on, and he's gonna write our decisions and do some of the paperwork that he can while he's out looking for his next job too. Okay, so before us, we have the minutes of 9/14, 9/28, and 10/12 of 2021. Did
Mind
everybody
if we
get a
table
chance to
those?
take a
'Cause I
look
think
at those?
Obviously, just coming in here tonight, looking at.
You got them now? Does
Got
everybody
them.
still have them now?
No, I don't have it.
Yeah, they were.
They're in our package.
They're in the package, it's underneath your nameplate, I left,
Oh,
so we could table those until our next meeting. And, so to give you guys a chance to look at it. So, Mary Ann is doing, the new lady, she's not here tonight, but, she'll do this off the video. But,
You just gotta put
she's been doing the new notes for the board, and I thought she did a good job. So, but everybody's welcome to look at those and to make any suggestions. All right, so our next meeting date is 11/9, and I just got to make sure that we try to get the main room. Again, all that has to be done, it was done by Jim to, secure the rooms and everything else, so I guess that's, I'll work with the selectman's office, and we'll try to make sure that we have our rooms available for the next meeting. So, entertain a motion for adjournment.
Hold on just a second.
Yep.
As far as the other elephant in the room, the service by Ironwood.
Oh, I have to, I don't, generally, when we have a court case in front of us, we have to speak in executive session. I don't know how much I can say in regular session about that.
Yeah.
But yes.
Can we put it on the agenda for?
I will talk to someone here tomorrow about what we can and can't talk about. But I did know we get all orders for, well, I got an order for court. I know Kevin did. I believe you did. I know Ellen did. I know Rich, you got one. And John, I think, yeah, got one too. I did see an email there. Take those, or if you want to give them to me, but it'd be better if you could do it yourself. Take them to the selectman's office tomorrow as soon as possible. And they're sending that off to town council, and town council's going to handle it. And so that's all I can say about that now until I know, how much detail. I really don't have anything more to say about it. I do know that town council's going to be with the members that were served. It's going to be a video meeting, so town council's going to be there with the members of the board when that happens. As far as I know, that's what I've heard. But I will have to find out more about that tomorrow too. All right? All right, so make a motion for adjournment. I entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a
Unless
motion
you-
for
okay.
adjournment.
Okay.
second.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and opposed. Okay, so, good night, everyone, thank you.
Thank you, Andy. It's always a pleasure to see you here.